And the lawsuits have already started, and the Trump administration is only less than a day old. As I predicted here on Legal AF, the first lawsuits have already been filed against the phony Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, controlled allegedly by Elon Musk. Is it an inside organization that violates the delegation of authority and therefore is an invalid department, no matter how it's been created by Donald Trump? Or is it an outside advisory board that violates the Federal Advisory Committee Act? Is it an illegal FACA? It is Donald Trump FACA'd. 2 new lawsuits filed in the D.C. of Columbia, the District of Columbia trial level federal court today, claim that the DOGE is not transparent, not properly, doesn't have proper members of it, and should be disbanded. I'm Michael Popok. You're on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Let's take a deep dive into the Federal Advisory Committee Act. Here's what it requires. Here's why DOGE violates it. Here's why the lawsuits are likely to be successful. And if they're not successful there, and Donald Trump tries to argue that they're really inside the government, I mean, we already know that Elon Musk's office is inside the White House campus and working under the Office of Management and Budget, then it is a improperly delegated department of the government that could also be challenged in its formation, needs to be completely transparent and subject to Freedom of Information Act, public records requests. Either way, we're going to get to the bottom of DOGE. Let's talk about the new lawsuits. 2 different organizations have brought similar cases. One, a plaintiff known as National Security Counselors, have brought a case under the 1972 law, the Federal Advisory Committee Act, which requires that any advisory committee be objective and that it be accountable to the people, hold regular meetings, have regular minutes, and also have a level of transparency about its membership, and that its membership be made up of stakeholders concerning the thing that it's advising on. In other words, where are the federal employees as stakeholders or their representatives on DOGE, which is completely comprised of Elon Musk's buddies in the tech world, Silicon Valley Mafia, the PayPal Mafia, the Peter Thiel Mafia, people that work for Elon Musk, people that work for Vivek Ramaswamy, and the rest. That's not how FACA, or FACAs as they're called, I'm not kidding you, are supposed to be comprised. So that's one lawsuit. Another lawsuit has been brought by a group of veterans and former public officials and public servants who are also challenging FACA on the exact same grounds. So you got these 2 lawsuits. They'll probably be consolidated and put in front of one federal judge, and I'll tell you who that is later. But just as I said, the hotbed of all the litigation about the Trump administration, he's got 200 executive orders. We've got 200 lawsuits ready to go. They got filed within minutes of 12 o'clock this afternoon when Donald Trump was sworn in. I mean, I didn't see it. I was watching the puppies and the kittens on the Midas Touch Network, but I heard he got sworn in. And so I said a few things that you need to keep an eye on here on Legal AF. That the intersection of law and politics is going to run through the District of Columbia trial court, federal trial court. That's where the suits are going to be filed, mainly because these agencies exist or don't exist in D.C. Now, sure, MAGA has tried to file things against the FDA and other places like North Carolina or in Texas, which is their favorite venue. But you generally have to file in D.C. And we like D.C. I mean, we like New York too, but we like D.C. from a fair-minded, moderate standpoint, progressive standpoint, because it's dominated by Biden appointees and Clinton appointees and Obama appointees. We like that. We like the D.C. Court of Appeals. Again, you not just worry about what your trial level is, you worry about what your appeals court is. We like the D.C. Court of Appeals too, because that's filled with Clinton, Obama, and Biden appointees. Of course, you always end up at the brick wall of the United States Supreme Court, but let's not rain on our parade yet. Let's get there with these filings. This is not the only case. Whether, again, I think Donald Trump is on the horns of a dilemma. He's FACA'd, as I like to say, now that I learned about the Federal Advisory Committee Act. Because if he argues that it is an advisory committee, then he's violated the law, needs to be disbanded, reformed, refashioned, transparent, and the like. If it's an inside government, it's like he just created the Department of. He can't do that on his own dime or his own pen, and Congress has to fund it. And so there's steps that have to be taken that have been skipped, and a delegation of authority from the executive branch that would be incorrect. We file another suit on that. And if it's really an inside or quasi-governmental entity, then we want to hit it with Freedom of Information Act requests, FOIA requests that we're going to FOIA them to death. That's going to be like if in boxing, that's sort of like jabs. That's a jab, bam. And then you knock them out with a lawsuit. So you FOIA them to death with all sorts of requests, tie them up in knots, and then you hit them in the lawsuit. That's the strategy that you're going to be watching writ large here in the District of Columbia. That's going to be what's going to happen. Now, the next big crossroads for this battle for the soul of America is going to be over birthright citizenship. I just did a video on that. That is Donald Trump's attempt to change an amendment of the Constitution by executive order. And if you're scratching your head at home going, how can he do that? In the rock, paper, scissor of constitutional amendments, executive orders get beat, right? That congressional amendments are the rock to Donald Trump's scissor, if you know what I mean. And he can't, but he'll try. He's supposedly signing an executive order that's going to make the federal officers and federal departments not recognize children born here in America on U.S. soil, despite the 14th Amendment, Section 1 that says exactly that, and say, well, no, who are your parents? Well, who's your grandparents? Well, let me see your parents' documentation for their citizenship. Oh, they're undocumented or their green card. Oh, then you're not a U.S. citizen. That's not what the 14th Amendment says. And so he can't do it by executive order. It can only be changed two ways. Another amendment to the Constitution takes a 2/3 votes of the states, 2/3 of the House and the Senate. Not happening. Not in this divided world we live in. Or an unreasonable interpretation of the 14th Amendment by the United States Supreme Court. Now, where have I heard that before? Right. We saw them do that in a number of places. Unreasonable interpretation of the 14th Amendment resulted in the immunity decision and in the Colorado decision about insurrectionists by the United States Supreme Court. An improper interpretation of the Second Amendment gave us unfettered lack of gun control in this country. So they could do it. I just don't think they will. I don't think John Roberts is going to side with the other MAGA alt-right, right? Which he would have to do in order for them to count to 5 and rule on his watch that babies born in America are not Americans. Hasn't he done enough to sully his legacy, which is already circling the drain of history with making women second-class citizens in this country? Isn't that enough? And giving the presidency and Donald Trump complete immunity and allowing him to win the run for office, isn't that enough? And all the other things that he's written. So we're going to continue to follow it here on Legal AF. You're at the right place. You're at the right time. You're with the right person. I'm Michael Popok, Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Hit the free subscribe button. We're building our way to 500,000 in the first 5 months or so of our existence. We stand on the shoulders of the Midas Touch Network. We stand on the shoulders of our audience, our faithful audience. We stand on the shoulders of Legal AF, the podcast. And I'm here curating this channel. Take a minute. Hit the free subscribe button. It's not ego, it's algorithm. The bigger we are as a people-powered, independent channel, the more your voice is heard and it resonates. So until my next reporting, this is Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.